Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our weekly TLC Live. Today, Orlando Sanchez in town,
I am
and
gonna
a
be.
special guest.
I'm gonna be in town.
Oh,
I'm not going. I'm
yay!
not going anywhere. I'm gonna make her life miserable.
And other people that you cannot see here in the room. So believe me, it's a lot of people, but no, we're happy. We're happy that you're here, Orlando, for sure.
I'm happy to be back. We have a
Okay,
big election coming up. And speaking of elections, we have a very
exactly.
special guest, right?
Of course,
Tell us who we have.
we have. I mean, I feel special today.
You are.
Not because of you,
Oh,
because he's here.
Thank you.
Justin Ray.
Hey guys, how are y'all?
you? He candidate for a District
135,
135.
the sprawling metropolis of House District 135 in Northwest Harris County. Absolutely. We're going to put this seat back in Republican hands.
welcome,
We-
Justin.
We
Thank you,
are
Orlando,
just
Andrea.
around the corner with the elections. And how did you getting ready? Tell us about you. People get to know you. This is the first time I met you, and I was like, wow, this like young and enthusiasm, and
And she also said handsome.
I said, yeah, I said very handsome.
I just
Very
had a
nice.
birthday yesterday, guys, so thank you very much for considering me young. That means a
Happy
lot to me.
birthday!
Thank you very much.
Okay, hold.
Still young.
Still young.
Still young.
Okay.
We'll keep it that way.
So,
Young and holding. That's how we're going to say it, right?
okay,
But,
awesome. So tell us about you. I mean, where did you grow up
Yeah.
and where you were
Yeah.
born? And I said at the beginning, I said Justin Ray.
Rey,
Yes.
el rey.
El Rey.
Justin
Sí.
King, because el rey is
Sí.
king in español.
We can work with that.
Okay.
We'll go with that. Absolutely. Right. So, hey, guys, thanks so much for letting me come and visit with you guys and letting me talk to everybody out there in the interwebs. And we're running a great race out here in Northwest Harris County. It's my hometown. It's where I grew up. It's where I was raised. I went to, this is the area of Jersey Village, Northwest Harris County, the Cypress area. And I grew up out there, went to elementary school, went to high school out there, and proud graduate of Jersey Village High School. That was back when Cy-Fair ISD had 4 high schools. Now it's up to like a dozen. So just to show you what the explosive growth looks like
It's
out there,
amazing.
it is absolutely amazing. When you look at the Cy-Fair area, it's in unincorporated Harris County. If it was to incorporate and become its own city, it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of the 13th largest city in the country. Can you imagine that? I mean, just explosive growth out here in Harris County and the surrounding Houston metro area, which provides a lot of opportunities and challenges for Republicans like us. And we're up to the task. And, like I said, I grew up out there and went to University of Houston, go Cougs, and got my undergraduate there and went to South Texas College of Law, opted to forego a law career, went into business, and married my wonderful wife, Allison. Hopefully she's watching right now. Hi, Allison.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
And she can
yes.
share also
That's
this
right.
live. Everybody share, please.
She's probably sending me a text right now, quit mentioning me or something like that, right? But I met my wonderful wife, Allison. She's a special ed teacher. She teaches kids with visual impairments. And we
Wow.
met and we bought a little house in Oak Forest. It's about the size of this room, little 2-bedroom, 1 bath. If you guys are familiar with those old homes in Oak Forest. And had a great time out there, right? And then she came to me one day and she said, well, we're pregnant. And I said, well, we're moving because her and I are fighting over that 1 bathroom,
Yeah.
much
Right.
less throw a kid into the mix. And so it's time for us to find, our adult home. We're the home where we're going to raise our family and our children. Where are we going to establish our roots? And where are we going to get involved in our community? And I grew up in Jersey Village. Still had friends and family in the area. And we went and decided it was time for me to move back in there. My wife wanted to move back. And that's where we wanted to raise our family. And so we have 3 wonderful kids who started
So
school
cute.
yesterday.
So
Thank goodness.
cute.
Thank goodness. Having those kids at home since March, a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old, they were climbing the walls, right? And getting them back in school was a great win for everybody. And so we got 3 great kids: 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, 5-year-old, 5th grade, 2nd grade, and kindergarten.
So how is like your wife is a teacher,
Mhm.
so she has to go online with other kids and also monitoring her own kids.
Absolutely.
It's like not easy.
No, it's not. When you look at what these teachers are having to deal with during this going back into classroom with the pandemic, it's a lot of extra work. And we really appreciate all that the teachers have done, educating kids. Because look, we've got in classroom needs, we've got virtual needs, and the amount of time they have to spend doing that, it's really a lot of work.
Something special about teachers. I am married to a former teacher
There you
who
go.
spent many, many years. She won't let me tell you how many years, but she spent many years at Spring Branch Independent School District.
And that's a great school district too.
Yeah.
Growing, burgeoning area. That's a great area.
Yeah.
That Spring Branch School District area is great.
Teachers are a special group. Now you've told us about where you grew up and a little bit about your family. Let's talk about what's important today. Not that your family is not important, but coming up in November, the important thing is the election.
Yes, sir.
You have some political experience. You held a position that I once aspired to. You were mayor of Jersey Village, as I understand. How long were you mayor?
So I got elected to city council in 2012, and in 2015, the opportunity to run for mayor opened up. And it's one of those things where I was, again, in my mid 30s, and I looked at the situation and said, wow, I'm way too young to be a mayor. But the opportunity opened itself up, and it was a great opportunity for us to do some great things for the community. And so ran, did not draw an opponent. So ran in 2015, ran for re-election in 2017, and was term limited this last May. And guys, it was a very, very formative experience. I mean, I had the huge salary of $0 a month to be a volunteer elected mayor. But, I tell this story a lot. When I was mayor of a little small town, and first of all, it gave me a lot of appreciation for local government and, the importance of local government and how in tune we are with, the folks on the ground. But when I was mayor, Cub Scouts and scout troops would come and visit with me, and they, because they want to earn a merit badge when they meet, an elected official and things like that. And I would sit there in front of the scout troops and I would talk about federalism and how our city works and how our city is organized. And I would do Q&A. And one kid asked me, he said, I had never been asked this before. Do you like being mayor? And I said, kind of threw me for a loop. And I said, let me think about that for a minute. And I said, actually, I do enjoy being mayor. And how I kind of expressed that was, I said, when I first ran for city council in 2012, I knocked on hundreds of doors, guys. And there was a whole lot of, hello, Mr. Smith, how are you? I play football with your son. Can I get your vote? And things like that, going and visiting with neighbors. And I thought it would be a fun and exciting adventure to be on city council. Then I became mayor, and then I started to actually mature as an elected official. It was a maturing process that I underwent. And I realized that I was able to actually effectuate change in my community. And I told that guy, I said, yeah, I do enjoy being mayor, because just like your dad is the Little League coach, or your mom's the PTO president, or your dad, is the scout leader, this is my way of serving the community. This is my way of volunteering and making our community better. And we did a lot of things that I'm very proud of in my tenure there. And the things that were really important to me, public safety was a big issue. Mm-hmm. We have a very active public safety department. Our infrastructure, flooding, that's a big issue for us. With, of course, flooding is a huge issue in the whole greater Houston, actually Gulf Coast issue. And, Orlando, we could talk hours about the importance of infrastructure and flooding in, the Gulf Coast. But flooding, public safety, economic development, fiscal responsibility, those are all things that, we were able to accomplish during my tenure. And I'm very proud of it, as a matter of fact.
And speaking of that, I'm sure that you've gotten to know your district intimately, because I understand you're doing a lot of block walking again, which is very important when you're running for State House of Representatives in the state of Texas. What are the issues that you're hearing about from your constituents?
Yeah, so great point. And you're exactly right. One of the reasons why I'm running for State Representative House District 135 is growing up in that area, serving that area as an elected official for several years, I feel that I intimately understand the opportunities and the challenges of that district. And so it's that spirit of service is kind of propelling me forward in this position. This was a position that flipped from Republican to Democrat in 2018 under what I call Hurricane Beto. But the district is still a center-right district, and the issues are that are important to people in House District 135 are issues that kind of are applicable throughout the entire area. And so, Orlando, bring up a good point. To win these districts, we've got to knock on a lot of doors. Our campaign has knocked on over 30,000 doors since May, as a matter of fact. I've knocked on thousands myself, because I learned as an elected official, you become a better elected official when you understand what people's concerns, their desires, their wishes, their needs are. And you only get that by talking to them one-on-one. And so to your question, what are the issues that are important in our district? Public schools are a big issue, and it's the neighborhood school, and we can talk a little bit about schools. My wife's a school teacher, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my mother, all public school teachers. The neighborhood schools are a major, major issue, and people are concerned, and they want to make sure they have strong neighborhood schools. We were in the Cy-Fair School District, 118,000 students. Taxes, property taxes, income taxes, of course, the prohibition on income taxes, fortunately.
In
But,
Texas, yeah.
but taxes are a big deal. Property taxes are a big issue. The whole coronavirus, the COVID-19, our response to it. How are we going to go forward as a community under this pandemic? That's a big issue as well. And public safety. Public safety is a huge issue, and it's something that people are very concerned about, making sure our neighborhoods are safe for both our kids
Is the
and
city of
ourselves.
Jersey Village defunding your police?
We are not defunding the police. As a matter of fact, for a city of our size, we have a large percentage of our budget that actually goes towards law
Public
enforcement.
safety.
For a city of our size, we have a very active, well-staffed, well-equipped, well-trained police department. And we actually put a percentage of our sales tax towards what we call the Crime Control Prevention District, in which we're putting additional resources into our law enforcement. Because one of the things, that we realized is in our community, people are going to want to move to your community. They're going to want to stay in your community if they feel safe there. And I will tell you this, guys, one of the most important responsibilities anybody can have an elected official is to provide for public safety. That's from the top all the way down.
Well,
to the
that's our
local
number
government.
one duty as elected officials.
Absolutely. And it touches on so many important things. If you have a safe community, that means businesses are going to want to move there. That means people are going to want to move there, and your home values are going to increase year in and year out. Your schools are going to be good. And, it's going to be a place where you're going to want to raise your family, own a business, and contribute and be part of your community. So if you have a safe neighborhood and you provide that foundational stability, it makes for a great community, and it's absolutely foundational.
Excellent.
What would be the first thing if you get elected to, in the legislation for you to push forward?
So our biggest agendas are public schools, our public education. When you look at the state of Texas, our number one responsibility is to educate the next generation of Texans.
Mm-hmm.
As a Republican, I talk to a lot of my friends within the Republican Party, and we are so proud of the Texas economic miracle, right? We're so proud of the Texas dream that we've created, in which you can come here, you can create a business, you can raise your family, you're not taxed debt. These are important things. And it's called this Texas economic miracle, but we can only continue the Texas economic miracle if we educate the next generation of Texans, right? So making sure our schools are funded. I was very supportive of the legislation that passed in 2019, in which we increased our school funding. That was an important issue for our community. It's an important issue for the Cy-Fair community. So staying on top of our public schools, making sure that we have the adequate funding to continue to educate the next generation of students, that's a big issue for us.
Justin, talking about education, this is very important now with this challenging time that we've been going through in 2020 with the pandemic and with the COVID-19, and our kids are doing the online school. I mean, what is the, I think your vision before this thing on education, it changed now with this.
Right.
So what would you think it will be important to implement for the next generation in education?
Well, absolutely. So when you look at the COVID thing, right, we were very supportive of making sure that we have schools open for kids, right? I mean, we were very supportive of the Cy-Fair ISD response, in which they gave parents an option. For parents who needed a little extra time, we have an online option. For parents who wanted to get their kids in school, we have an in-school option, and we thought that was the right direction to go. And
Question.
like I said,
what percentage of the families are in school, and what percentage of taking advantage of online?
It varies by school, but you're looking, probably an average of 30 to 40% are in class right now, and anywhere from, it varies by school, but more are staying home. But I expect, as we start getting more and more comfortable with in-class options, the students in the next several weeks will have an option of determining whether they want to stay virtual or whether they want to go back in. I expect we'll see more and more students getting back into the schools, because the way we look at it is, and again, my wife's a special ed teacher. She teaches kids with visual impairments. How do you adequately teach students with visual impairments from a computer online, right? And it's not just kids with visual, our entire special needs community, or kids with special needs, they do need a lot of that in-class developmental resources, right? So we want to continue working in that direction, and we're very supportive of the efforts that are going into that. And to your point, Andrea, from the state of Texas, one of the things, I guess right off the bat, we need to make sure that we have the funding resources necessary to keep the funding per student where it needs to be. We need to make sure that we keep our teachers funded, and then we need to make sure that we are actually promoting and harnessing, because there's an attachment to our natural resources in Texas, right? Our oil and gas industry, right? Are we supporting our oil and gas industry to where we have those funding resources to make sure that we're adequately funding our education system?
And I want to make sure that everybody see you, so you need to push a little bit here.
I'm getting too comfortable, just kind of
Yes.
lounging back
I
over
know.
here. I'm about to start putting my feet up on the table
We're
here
about
for a
to lose
second.
you.
Hey,
See
We're
how
about to
I'm
lose
leaning
you.
in this way?
We're about to lose you. So we want people to see you. So you were asking something.
Yeah, no, obviously our title tells it all. TLC, Texas Latino Conservatives. So one of the things that's of interest to us is, what is the demographic of your district? In other words, what's the, and as conservatives, we all want to know that we're all Texans, right?
Absolutely,
We're
right.
all Americans,
That's right.
but but people still want to talk about race and ethnicity. Okay, so we'll talk about it. What percentage of the population in your district is Hispanic?
So our breakdown is about 47% Anglo, 20 to 25-ish% Hispanic, and we have about 20% African American, and then we have a very diverse House district. And I think that it brings a lot of opportunities and a lot of challenges for Republicans to go and get our message out there. But Orlando, you hit on something that I talk about a lot. And one of the things that's is great is the fact that we are Texans, right? We have a little bit of extra pride that permeates all races and all ethnicities. We're Texans, and so we have a common bond amongst all of us that's there that a lot of other folks don't have. And I think that has kind of in some ways insulated us from a lot of the civil unrest and the strife that we had.
Justin, I totally agree. I have a house down in South Texas, and last night, and I offered this to you as well, I volunteered for a candidate running for House District 144 in Pasadena, and we did a lot of volunteer block walking. And obviously, the population of the neighborhood I went into was about 98% Hispanic.
Wow.
I can tell you one thing. I've never seen more American flags displayed on porches than I have in this particular precinct in Pasadena.
Absolutely.
And so you're absolutely correct. We're all Americans. We're all Texans. And one of the things that we fight against is that we're not divided like the liberal left wants to. And I think that is exactly, you hit the nail on the head. We are proud Texans first and foremost. And that's what makes this state very unique.
Absolutely.
That we don't let people divide us. We have a long history.
That's right.
A long streak of independence, fighting for liberty, fighting for freedom, including back in 1836 when the Mexicans joined with the Texians and the Tejanos fought side by side. We're very proud of that, and so we're glad that you have a district that is representative of Texas, and it's a great mix. And we at TLC want to offer you any help that we can. And we'd love to maybe encourage our partners at the RNHA, Republican National Hispanic Assembly, and our friends over at HRT, the Hispanic Republicans of Texas, along with the Texas Conservative Latinos, to team up like we did last night. And let's organize a block walk in Justin's
Let's put the
district.
information on the screen, and the producer can help us with that. The information of your, you're going to have that every weekend.
We're going to have block walks every weekend. And so keep an eye on our Facebook, keep an eye on our website. We'll be providing as much information on that as well. We've got a campaign headquarters off of Dillard Drive right at the entrance of Jersey Village, in which we try to have our block walks fun, right? I mean, everybody come over, we're going to have coffee and donuts in the morning. We'll have a big rah-rah speech, and maybe, if circumstances permit, maybe we'll have some lunch afterwards. We want to make these an event, right? We want people to be excited about our campaign. We want people to be excited about our message. And we want people to be excited about the future of Texas. You're exactly right, Orlando. One of the things we cannot let happen, we cannot let the liberal media, the liberal progressives, tear Texans apart, right? We cannot have them separate us based on what our last name is, where our mom and dad came from, what we look like. We cannot let the Texans, we cannot let the liberals tear us down, because we have this common bond as Texans.
I can tell you that, as you know, Justin, I started my political career before you were born in 1992. And I ran for State House of Representatives. I was the Republican nominee for House District 132. I block walked. I still have a pair of shoes that have holes in it from all the block walking I did. But let me share something with you. The heart of House District 132 was Meyerland area,
Sure.
Fondren Southwest, Braeswood, Loop 610, Meyerland Plaza. My grocery store was a Randall's at Meyer Park.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, my sister lives over there, so occasionally I go into that Randall's. I guess it's Randall's. I don't know if it's still a Randall's or not. But that grocery store, when I go in, people still remember me and remind me, oh, yeah, you knocked on my door. That's how important block walking is. I will tell you from block walking 86 houses last night, there is no better way to get involved in American politics than to put on a T-shirt that says Justin Ray for House of Representatives and block walk and talk to taxpayers, talk to voters, find out from the husband, the mom and dad, and the kids. Because last night, Justin, we just ran a poll, TLC did, and the level of enthusiasm to vote in this election is extremely high among Latinos, as I'm sure is among all Texans. But last night, block walking, if we were talking to mom and dad, sometimes the kids overheard that conversation and came to the door. So you get to meet the entire family. You get to talk about issues. Sometimes they disagree with you, and they'll politely disagree. And that's how candidates like us grow, is listening to you, the voter. So when we're knocking at your door, answer and engage us in a conversation, because as politicians, we're not politicians, we're ordinary citizens like Justin that have decided to serve you, our community. We learn from you. This is how we learn issues, right? Sure. This is how we formulate our opinions and try to represent our constituents in Austin. So block walking is extremely important, and we want to help you next time you organize one. And
great,
let's work together.
We certainly appreciate that, because you're exactly right. I mean, my experiences in block walking, if you're going to represent somebody, what better way to understand what their needs, their desires, their wishes, what their challenges are, than to actually meet with them one-on-one and have a face-to-face interaction with them. So we've been aggressively block walking, and when you look at it, we're Republicans, right? We're conservatives. The thing about it is, we need to go and in many ways reintroduce the Republican Party to the voting electorate. You chuckle, but you know it's right?
Can you repeat that?
Yes. Look, I have been screaming this from the mountaintops. The Republican Party, we need to go re-engage and reintroduce and shake the hands of voters safely, of course, during the pandemic. But we have to actually go and re-engage the voters, right? For too many years, we've not done that. And we, frankly, we've suffered electorally as a result of that.
And not only that, Justin, we need to apply business conservative principles to urban problems.
For sure.
Whether they be healthcare, whether they be education, whether they be access to jobs, we need to address, we're always talking about conservatism and limited government and all these concepts that, they sound good on paper, but the average guy on the street that has no clue what that means. And so what we need to say is, well, here's what limited government means. It means that if you're a paletero, let's say in the barrio, or you have a taqueria, or you have an imaging clinic, or you're any kind of business person, limited government means that you don't have government bureaucrats knocking on your door, making sure you have a multiplicity of, certificates and taxes to be paid. I mean, we want you to be able to run your business, make money, yes, operate it in a safe manner, but we don't need government breathing down your throat. We don't need government taxing you all the time. So that's what we mean by limited government. It's not just some great concept. So we need to explain this to folks in the neighborhoods. And I'm glad you said that, because for a long, long time, I said Republicans need to roll up their sleeves and get to work and reintroduce themselves. That's right. In the neighborhoods.
That's right. And what we're doing is we're taking a pro-growth message of opportunity and optimism, and we're knocking literally on every voter's door. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, if you're an independent, if you're a Democrat, our messages resonate. Our vision resonates. Our visions of freedom and liberty resonate with everybody. It's just up to us as candidates now to go out there and knock on everybody's door and remind them what's our policies, what's our visions, what do we consider important, and at the same time ask them what they consider important. I take as much opportunity as I can to go, what are the issues that are important to you? I talk about the issues that are important to me. What are important to you? And one of the things in Orlando, you hit a great point. the Republicans, we need to talk about the things that people care about.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
When I talk to residents and neighbors, they talk about their public schools and their education. And Republicans, we have a vision for public schools. We have a pro-growth vision for public schools, right? And it's up for us to go out there and communicate that, whether it be public schools, healthcare, public safety, taxes. Those are issues that people care about, and we have to have a policy for that.
Yep.
And that's very important. That's why we need more people to get involved. We need the community. What is the biggest challenge that you've been facing during not only COVID-19, but with the diverse of the community in your district?
Well, sure, right. I mean, when you have a diverse community, of course, there's language barriers we run into sometimes. But fortunately, one of the things in our community, we have some language barriers, but at the same time, we are able to effectively communicate with folks.
¿Cómo está tu español?
See, not much, right?
No mucho, poquito.
Not much. But the good thing is we do have a diverse group of volunteers who are focused on reaching out to everybody, right? And so, the language barrier is something we're working through, but at the same time, everybody has a general understanding of what we're trying to communicate. Our message is getting through. So, those are a little bit of challenges, and as Republicans, those are challenges that we need to embrace, right? Have volunteers, have staff, have supporters who are able to bridge some of those language gaps. But and Andrea, you brought it up too. Probably one of the biggest challenges that we have, of course, is COVID-19. That has been a very difficult challenge for basically every campaign. I said, I was wondering if anybody had ever written a book called Campaigning During a Pandemic, and if they do, I'd like to find it, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist. So we've had to figure out, how does our message reach out to people when people are at home?
And afraid to open the door, afraid to see people in person.
Right. So early in the pandemic, when everything was locked down, it did present us some unique opportunities that we hadn't thought about. For instance, we held teleconference town halls. I had a great teleconference town hall with Dr. Tom Oliverson, state rep out in 130, who's been a good friend and supporter of ours, and John Caliandro, who was on the governor's reopening committee. And we talked about COVID-19, the health implications, and also the economic impacts. And we had 1,500 people on that teleconference town hall. And people used it as a resource, and they were texting me how appreciative they were that we did it. Had we not had COVID-19, would we have put that teleconference town hall together? I don't know. It forced us as a campaign to be more creative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I got to tell you that when I ran for mayor in 2001, September 11th happened.
Oh no! Yeah.
And I was running against Lee Brown, and we
I
had
remember
another
that.
candidate in the race, former city councilman and former congressman Chris Bell.
I remember it.
So it does force you to, step back and think about what's important and take into consideration, how our fellow Americans are feeling. So yeah, we've discovered a lot of innovative ways to reach out to folks, including this venue right here.
Mhm.
Facebook Live has been a real great opportunity for us, and we're glad that you were able to join us today. Talk to me a little bit about one of the interesting things, because we both are married to teachers and think that public education is still a very important issue. But from a public policy perspective and funding public education, a lot of these school districts aren't having to pay janitors, aren't operating the buses, aren't operating the cafeteria, and aren't occupying schoolhouses. If this trend continues, first of all, do you think this trend will continue, that it'll alter public education? And if it does, will it lower the cost of public education? And is there an opportunity to lower the tax rate? Because as you know, property taxes for schools are among the highest. I think in HISD, we're almost at $1.30 per $100 valuation.
Right.
So do you foresee, if there's a structural change in public education, where there'll be some tax relief for the taxpayers?
Well, fortunately, the Republican majority in the House of Representatives and our state leadership addressed this, in their HB3 bill, in which we increased the state funding per student, we increased teacher pay, but at the same time, we also put mechanisms in place to reduce the school taxes. And you're right, Orlando, when you look at your tax bill, the largest taxing authority is your schools. And of course, they have a very, very important responsibility in educating kids. But we have to find a way, and we have to find some of these structural things that we can implement that are going to educate our kids and make sure we provide the quality education that we are constitutionally mandated to do. But at the same time, we do have really, really high property taxes in Texas. I mean,
Well, and look, I'm not going to let my fellow Republicans get away this easy because we we have a saying in Texas that I can't repeat on there. But let's say I'm the fly in the ointment sometimes.
Sure.
And I love it when my fellow Republicans say, "Yeah, we cut, we increased public funding from the state level,
Mhm.
and your property tax bill has been diminished." And yeah, but did you open your appraisal this year?
Right.
And so while the tax rate was forced down, and thank you, Austin lawmakers, for doing that, the appraised value of our property went up significantly. So it's kind of a wash. And there's this game being played in Texas where the politicians, us, can say, we're going to cut property taxes, and then wink and nod, the appraisal district jacks up your property taxes by 10-15%.
Yep.
10 or 15%. I can tell you my property value did not go up 10% last year, and that's what's going on.
Right.
So we need to address that.
So, and when we talk about property taxes and running as a Republican for a House district, I say, who better would you want up there than somebody who's been in local government, who understands ad valorem taxes and understands property taxes and how they're spent well, and and how in many ways they're not spent as wisely as they could. When I look at taxes as a whole, right, one of the most important things you can do as an elected official is be good stewards of the tax resources. And our experience is, when you provide good resources and good services for taxes, you'll receive a lot of popular support. It's when you see the tax base being misused or misallocated, and basically people aren't seeing the results of their taxes. That's when you start losing popular support as an elected official, right? But here's the thing that we have to do. We have to find, in Orlando, you're right, we have to find ways of real, meaningful property tax, right? One of the things that I've always prided myself on as an elected official, and I pride myself on as running for this spot, is that I'm about results. I'm not about slogans, sloganeering, platitudes. I'm not. When I was mayor, I didn't get the luxury of running on slogans. I had to actually make sure fire trucks were running, police cars were running, sewer went out, water came in, there was no potholes. I had responsibilities, I had results I had to hit. And that's how I want the state of Texas to govern. That's how I want to legislate. I want to legislate towards real concrete solutions. And you're right. I mean, we have to find a way, and we need to work with our local authorities. We have to work with the counties, with the cities, with the mud boards. We have to work with local government to find ways that we can continue to provide services while providing real property tax relief. And there's the appraisal side of it that needs to be looked at. I call it property tax reform. We need to find ways that we work together, both from the state and our local community, where we can effectuate real property tax relief and provide the services people need. Because in Orlando, you're a local government guy too. You understand that local government has a tremendous responsibility.
Yeah. I agree, Justin. I mean, and I think Andrea's a homeowner. We're all property taxpayers. There's this misconception that we don't want to pay taxes. No, we want to pay taxes. When we don't, here's where we as Texans get upset. When we open up our property valuations from the appraiser, and then we get the tax bill, which is higher than it was last year, and then we see that in Houston, where I live, we don't have enough ambulances.
Mhm.
Oh, we don't have enough police officers. So the calls in the queue take, now it's going to take 2 hours and 20 minutes to get a police officer to your house. Oh, by the way, we don't have the money to fix the streets. Oh, by the way, we don't have the money to provide health care. We don't have enough testing kits for COVID. So we're saying to ourselves, and by the way, in HISD, their computer system crashed yesterday.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we don't mind paying taxes, but for God's sake, provide us a service.
Absolutely.
Give us streets, give us police officers. Don't defund our police department. Give us better ambulances. Fund our firefighters. We had this big battle in Houston about firefighters, for God's sake. Our paramedics, the people that risk their lives on the freeway, dodging traffic to extricate victims in a car crash, the people that save our children in an emergency. I mean, for God's sake, why is the municipality at odds with firefighters? Let's pay these people. Teachers. I mean, my gosh, teachers making a salary of $50,000, $60,000 a year. you know,
Yeah.
my God, teachers deserve $100,000. Let's cut out the fat. I mean, we have superintendent and 55 assistant superintendents. Really? A school principal can run a school. We don't need 55 superintendents making a total of $150 million at the expense of the taxpayers. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Let me tell you a story that really illustrates exactly what you just got through saying. So during the primary, I was out. I had my campaign banner and a little table right in the middle of Jersey Village, and I was campaigning at the Civic Center. And I was out there for days. And the other campaign that was there with me, just next to me, was Sheila Jackson Lee's campaign, and she had some workers from the Acres Home community out there. And we struck up a good rapport. Well, one day we showed up at the polls, and I had my booth, and they had their booth. And a stop sign had gotten run over the night before, and it was just laying on the ground. And within a few hours, our crew had gotten out there, repaired the stop sign, and back up and running. And the folks from Acres Homes were looking at it going, that would have been down for weeks in our neighborhood. Weeks. And they're like, you fixed it in hours? And I said, well, you know, when you pay taxes, you expect services.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And when you lose popular support, when you don't get the services that you pay for your taxes, you're exactly right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why we always talk here at the Texas Latino Conservatives that is very important. You know, presidential election is very important, but we need to vote for our community government. We need to vote for the city. We need to vote for the Texas. We need to vote for the presidents. We need to vote for our government because that's the one that we live in.
Sure.
So that's very important, and that's why we wanted to invite you, and we're going to invite another candidates here that they're local candidates, because it's very important for people to realize they're like, sometimes they don't even know for who to vote, and they just think that only presidential elections are important, but it's other things that are very important. And we live here in Texas, we live here in Houston, we live in the districts around us, pretty much close to Houston, and everything affect, because I probably work in Houston, but I live in Houston, but probably work in your district.
Sure.
So that's affect everybody.
Yeah, and Andrea is absolutely correct, because when you call 911, Washington, D.C. switchboard doesn't answer.
Correct.
It's 911.
That's right.
Here locally.
That's right.
And who responds to your emergency, whether it's fire, EMS, or police, is a local police officer. Your child is educated by your local teacher. Your sewer and water is treated by your local municipality. So yes, people get excited about the presidential election because there's a lot of press coverage, but how many times does a Congress member or the president come empty your trash? Or fix your water main
or fix
break?
fix the stop sign.
Exactly.
Well, and let's look at this ballot here in Harris County that we're going into, right? I mean, what is it, 50 people long? I mean, when you look at the ballot, we have incredibly important races up ahead of us. We just got through talking about president, we have the Senate, we have Congress, but we have the state legislature. And again, your state legislature talks about school funding, Medicaid, roads. We have incredibly important responsibilities that impact everybody's daily lives day in and day out. But even as you work your way down the ballot, we have a slate of judges, district judges. And then as you get lower on the ballot, we have an important sheriff's race. We have an important district attorney race. It's absolutely critical. Tax assessor collector race this year, right? It's and Andrew, you made a
County
great
clerk.
Point. County clerk. Andrew, you made a great point. People need to research these candidates, understand what they believe in, because what's the old saying? All government's local.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have interactions with government, it's going to be usually a police officer, or you're paying your bill, you're paying your water bill, your sewer bill to your local city, you're dealing with your teachers and school boards. Those are all the people that are government that you're going to interact with on a day in and day out basis.
You go
much
to a
more than
county
you are your
park.
Congress
Yeah.
or your president.
Yeah. You go to a
Correct.
county park, a city park, because last time I looked, I don't see any national parks in the city of Houston.
No.
So we use, city of Houston, city of Jersey Village, the county parks. So this is your local government, and I can appreciate your enthusiasm to go vote for the presidential candidates, but they're the least that'll affect your life. These local candidates are the ones that affect your life more on a daily basis than any national candidate.
So we need to vote our values. We need
Yes.
to vote the issues that it matters to us. And we need to listen sometimes to the people in our family, listen to the abuelita. That's why we create an abuelita
Do we have
commercial.
it? Do we have it?
We have it. Jake is having it, and we wanted you to see
I
it.
love that commercial.
It's very important.
Yeah.
It's you know who you listening to your family. You listen to your mom, to your dad, to your abuelita, grandmother.
I listen to my wife. Yes.
Well,
Smart.
right now, yeah,
Smart.
she's watching.
Hopefully
For
she's
sure,
watching
she's
right
watching. So we want to introduce you guys. I mean, for those that haven't seen the commercial in our Facebook page, we wanted you to see this because we need to vote our values. And we have many people, Orlando, that said like, I don't know who am. Especially the people that don't relate themselves with certain parties. So they're like, I mean, who you listen to? Yeah, so we need to listen
We
to
know who you
our
listen
values.
to. Listen to Abuelita. Go with Jake.
Abuelita,
Mija, are you hungry?
yes, I'm hungry, but I want to ask you a question. Are we conservative?
I am.
How do you know?
Mija, siéntate. Your abuelo and I came to this country because we had nothing. Everything that you see is because of hard work. You've got goals, dreams, and if you try your hardest, you will succeed. That's a promise.
Then I'm a conservative too, Abuelita.
So
Make a difference.
Make a
Great
difference. Absolutely. Go vote and vote
Great message.
according to how Abuelita tells you. Vote how Grandma tells you. One of the interesting things is that we've just concluded a poll that we will make very public sometime today or tomorrow. But I can give you a little bit of information from our poll. We polled exclusively Latino voters in Texas, and Justin, I can tell you that the level of enthusiasm to go vote by Latinos is off the charts. There's a tremendous enthusiasm by the Latino community in Texas to go have their voices heard. And I love making predictions. And I've always said that it'll be the Latino community that'll save Texas.
Absolutely right.
Hispanics
Yep.
are going to go vote in large numbers, and I think they're going to vote their values. I think they're going to realize what's been happening in some of the urban areas where they made some choices 2 years ago that they may not agree with. And I think you're going to see some big changes in Texas.
And this is a very important comment, and you guys can talk about. Somebody said, and people now need to go all the way down the ballot race by race by race,
Yes.
with the straight ticket voting now gone.
Yes,
So-
that's a great point to bring up. So this is the first year we don't have any straight straight ticket voting in Texas. So you don't have the option of hitting straight Republican or straight Democrat. You have to work your way down all the ballot and vote for all the candidates. And of course, I'm going to recommend voting for the Republican candidates because I believe our values are the values that are going to keep the Texas dream alive. And that's what we're campaigning on, the Texas dream, guys. I mean, what other state would you want to live in than Texas?
Well, why are people from Colorado and California and New York moving to Texas? I mean, ask yourself that question. I mean, it's because they want to participate in the wonderful environment that you have all created, because it's you folks that have elected the government that we have. And it has worked. For 25 years in Texas, we've led the national economy. We've led in economic production, and we're also blessed. We have a tremendous trading partner. Things aren't going real well in Mexico, but Mexico is still our greatest trading partner. So there are a lot of good things. There's opportunities. Cost of living is a little lower in Texas, and people just want to be a Texan. I think mostly because they want to wear boots like we do.
Well, we're running out of time,
Sure,
guys.
I agree.
We're running out of time, and the last announcement that we want to make is that thanks to COVID-19, we're not going to be able to do the bus tour. So
Yeah, we had a bus tour planned, and it was on our Facebook page, and we were going to cover 4 counties down in South Texas. We were going to go to Maverick County, Valverde County. We were going to go to Uvalde County and Bexar County. But because of COVID-19 and the continued outbreak, unfortunately, we've had to cancel it for now. But we can assure you that we will we will be down in your community as soon as we get a grip on this pandemic. So don't despair. We're going to come by and see you guys, but unfortunately, we don't think it's safe to do it right now.
So meanwhile, you're gonna see us in a walk tour in your district.
That's right.
That's right.
135.
That's right. And for all of you guys that wanted to meet Andrea in person, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but we will be down in South Texas soon.
We're gonna go together, and
Yeah,
we can maybe do some Facebook Live
Absolutely,
over there.
right?
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun.
So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You're a good public servant. You're a good human being. You're a great father, a great husband. You're a great public servant and servant leader. We want to wish you the very best. We want to encourage you guys to go to Justin's website. We want to encourage you, if you live in that district, even if you don't live in that district, the most important thing, everybody thinks that those of us that are involved in politics think that money is the most important thing. Money's important. We got to get our message out. But what's more important is your time. It's you as an asset. You, the voter, you're our asset. Volunteer. Help us block walk. Help Justin go knock doors. You're going to meet great Americans, great taxpayers, and you're going to learn about the political process.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you,
Did you
guys.
want to
I'm
say
Dave
any
Rolando.
closing remarks?
En español.
En
Gracias.
I'll have to brush up on my Espanol for next time.
Sí, gracias.
But gracias, and I want to say the Texas dream is alive, and with your help, we'll keep it that way.
Okay.
See you guys next week. Thanks
Nos
for
vemos
tuning
el
in.
próximo
Hasta luego.
miércoles y vayan a la página de internet texalatinoconservative.com. Nos vemos.
Adiós.